am still currently nursing my 19-month-old twin daughters, and I'm here to talk to you today about my journey. When I was pregnant, I looked everywhere for information regarding breastfeeding, especially people who were doing it for 1 year plus, because that was my goal, was to make it to 1 year. And so I wanted to share this because I felt it could be helpful to anybody out there that is pregnant or in the trenches of nursing. Because they're now 19 months, I'm going to be splitting up the story because it's a lot of information that I want to share. I want to be as detailed as possible because I was looking for that when I was pregnant. And also when I was nursing, I was looking for encouragement and people that were successful at it. So that's what I'm going to be sharing. I'm going to be breaking this up into two parts. I'm going to be doing the first 9 months in this episode, which will be part one, and then the last 10 months in the next episode, which will be part two. And so stay tuned for that. And Mothering Holistically podcast is just here to amplify everyday moms' voices, creating a relatable space to share stories, practical tips, and inspiration. And my point of this is just to empower moms to embrace every season of motherhood with confidence and pursue their dreams with resilience. So, if you like this content, please give it a thumbs up and like it. Also, subscribe and hit that notification bell to never miss a weekly episode. These come out every Saturday at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So, I would really appreciate it if you like this video. So, yeah, let's get back into it. Welcome back to Mothering Holistically. My name is Kaylee Berlinee. And like I said in the beginning, I'm going to just be sharing the first 9 months of my breastfeeding journey. Hopefully, you are ready because it's going to be a lot that I'm going to be sharing with you today. And yeah, also, if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to just connect with me at Kaylee Berlinee on all social media platforms. You can also follow the podcast on Instagram at Mothering Holistically. And then if you have any questions, I'm so happy to answer them. Like I said, I'm still currently nursing my daughters. Yeah, I completely understand when you are just overwhelmed and you're in the trenches. So, anyway, I'm going to get right into it. I did start prepping for nursing before, like while I was pregnant. I did go and take a breastfeeding class, and then I also like was watching YouTube videos and stuff like that. So one thing that I did see was that oatmeal and flax seeds really helps with lactation, and I love oatmeal, so that wasn't something that I shied away from. And I am somebody that can like eat the same things every day and not get tired of it. So with that being said, I ate oatmeal, I would say starting in October. So that's like November, December, January, 3 months before I had my daughters. I was eating it every single morning. And so I got this oatmeal. I'll try to put up a picture, but it's from Trader Joe's and it's their organic oats and flax, like the instant packet. Let me put my thing on do not disturb. Okay, so it's the instant oatmeal and it's like 2.99 or 3.99 for a box. And I just kept those on deck. They're really helpful, especially when you're busy and you're nursing. So I love those. And then I also ate eggs on the side of that. So I would eat like 5 eggs with that. I don't know if the eggs did anything, but I do know that eggs have a healthy amount of cholesterol, which is something that is very important in breast milk. I'm not a scientist, but I did see some of that information about cholesterol in breast milk, which is not in formula. And especially with little boys, I know that the cholesterol is really important. Like I said, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, so I just am regurgitating things that I've heard. I will try to input in links and studies in the description if I can find them. And for the people that watch the video, I'll post stuff on the screen because I do believe that these are things that I saw. And then I also looked up what is in like how the macro breakdown of breast milk. So like how much carbs, how much fat, how much protein. I do know it's about like 1%. I think I wrote it down. I have notes this time on my notebook. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. But for those of you that are watching me, so it's 7% carbs, 3.8% fats, and 1% protein. eggs are good source of, fat. They're like it's like the same thing. I believe it's like 5 grams of protein or 5 grams of I might be mixing this up, but it's like 5 grams of protein, 6 grams of fat, or vice versa. I don't quite remember at this very second, but yeah, so I would eat every morning since October to the first year of their life. So for 13 months, or no, 15 months, I ate oatmeal and eggs every day, and my family thought I was crazy for being able to do that, but I just felt like it was working. I was able to so what really fortified it, I'm not trying to jump ahead, but what really solidified that it was something that I felt was working was the fact that when I was in the hospital, I started producing milk. I've heard some stories of moms like it taking a week or 5 days for them to get their actual milk, for their milk to transition from colostrum to milk. And for me, it took 3 days. So I don't know, I'm just a rarity, but like I said, I was eating oatmeal and flax seeds every day for 3 months prior to having my daughters, and then, of course, I didn't eat that in the hospital, but then when I got home, I continued eating that every day for a year straight in the morning, and honestly, I looked forward to it. I really liked that oatmeal and flax from Trader Joe's. It was so delicious, and I didn't really have to do anything to it. I made it with, like, half water, half milk, and yeah, I that's just what I did. I didn't add any sugar. I would put some butter in it, but yeah, that's how I ate it. So then I also really tried to so I guess I'm gonna just start with the diet here. I also really tried to eat as much whole foods and things as possible. Of course, when you're exhausted, because for me, I had twins, and so it was both a huge undertaking for me and my husband. We were both exhausted, and when you're nursing, like I can't I couldn't, like, grab both babies and put them on and then also take both babies off and lay them down, so I always would have to have my husband's help. So anyway, we were exhausted. We tried to eat as much whole foods and cook as much as we possibly could, but, if you've listened to any of my other episodes, I love In-N-Out. I would also eat pizza or something like that, or just, like, meals that family would bring. But we did do a lot of, like, crock pot meals, roast, and things like that, spaghetti, eggs, oatmeal. I mean, we would still buy steak, and we tried to eat avocados and just regular whole foods as much as possible. I tried to eat as well as possible, as well as you can when you're exhausted and you don't really feel like cooking. But we try to do that. I'm trying to think about that. I didn't really write much of what I was eating. I just really genuinely feel that oatmeal and flax played a major, major role. Of course, I drink a ton of water. I drink a ton of water. I drink about a gallon of water a day, and I would drink coconut water. And then when I had my appointment with the lactation consultant, she was like, "You can drink other things too. You don't just have to just be drowning yourself in water." So I would drink like Body Armors, coconut water, and water, but I like water. I'm not someone that's like big on juices and stuff like that. So here and there, I would have like we would buy like a case of Body Armors and like a case of coconut water. For the most part, it was water. So let me start at the beginning. So when I had my daughters, I mentioned in I believe my postpartum episode, which is episode 2, it talks a little bit more about immediate postpartum, like time in the hospital, but I will touch upon when I had my breastfeeding class. I did it I did it in December, so like about a month before I had the girls. I genuinely feel like it's good to do it like closer to your delivery date because then the information is really fresh, and I liked that I did that. I mean, these are my first kids, so I can't really compare other experiences. So, I mean, take that with a grain of salt, if you will. But anywho, I did it in December because I wanted it to be close to the delivery date. Because I was having twins, I had to also anticipate having an early delivery, which is what happened. I was supposed to have a scheduled C-section February 2nd, but my water ended up breaking January 13th. So that's when I had my daughters. And then I did the class December 9th or something like that. It was like pretty early in December. Anyway, so I did the class and the newborn class with my husband because I cannot stress enough, even like twins, singletons, multiples. I genuinely feel like if you and your partner are not on the same page with nursing, that could be a big wrench in your goal. Because me and my husband went to the classes together, and they also emphasized the importance of positivity from your partner and assistance when needed and just a lot of emotional support and things like that. I completely understand why they emphasize that and stress that, because without my husband, I could not do it. Without his understanding, without knowing the importance for our daughter's health. I mean, also our financial formula is very expensive. I remember when my cousin's daughter was on formula and she was paying like $40 a week just for her. And so, of course, with my daughters, it probably been something like $80 a week. And that's a huge, huge bill. $80 a week. What's that? And $60, $360 a month. Yeah. It's late. If that's not wrong, then don't sue me. But anywho, it's a bill. So nursing not only is helpful health wise, but it's also helpful financially. And yeah, me and him being on the same page because we had twins, we both had to wake up every single time they woke up, especially in the beginning, because he had to help me. And of course, because I'm a new mom, it was new to me and I needed a lot of help latching them every single time in the beginning. And yeah, it was really, really rough and, like, I needed a lot of help. My mom was there, so she also helped every single time, and when you are nursing to really help so I'm also giving information that I got from the nurse lactation, so they hooked me up. I blah, blah, blah. I was in I was a patient at Kaiser. My brain just jumbled up. I was a patient at Kaiser, and so when I delivered the girls and immediately expressed that I wanted to nurse, that was something that I was also told to us at the class was to really make it known right away. Also to not ask for I call them binky bottles, but some people call them pacifiers. So to not get a binky, like to wait until they latched, until you've kind of had a lot of successful latches before introducing a binky. I didn't wanna do binkies at all, if I'm gonna be honest, but I could not get them like, I could not soothe them both when they were, like, fresh out. Even in the hospital, day 3, I ended up begging for binky bottles because I needed something to help me out, and yeah, I asked for that, but immediately fresh out for the first 2 days, they didn't have a binky, and then when I started producing milk, because I had to like I said in my other video, I had to I had to latch them, then I had to pump, and then I had to hand express, and so that was to help just start stimulating is what the nurse told me, lactation nurse told me, and then by day 3, I was actually getting milk. I think I was producing 40 mils per pump session. And mind you, I have to do this from start to start every 2 hours. So if I started at noon when they latched, if I started at noon nursing, then I had to get them back on by 2. And that was round the clock, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 24 hours, 7 days a week, every 2 hours. And right now I can smile about it, but then I just I honestly just had to, like, put my head down and grin and bear it because my, oh my, was that tough. I mean, no sleep. It was tough, and I'm gonna be as transparent as possible because I'm not definitely not trying to talk anybody out of doing it. I just want I'm the type of person where I like to mentally prepare myself for something. So, unfortunately, I have a tattoo, and of course, everyone says like, "Oh my gosh, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts." So I just mentally told myself it was gonna hurt, and honestly, it wasn't as bad. Like, my brother was like, "You did really good for," and so my point of saying that is I think it really helps to hear the truth so you can properly mentally prepare for this undertaking, because it is an undertaking and it is gloriously amazing, and it'll be the hardest thing that you ever have to do, but the most rewarding thing you ever have to do. And it also taught me that I could do anything that I set my mind to. I mean, clearly I'm still nursing them, so it does get better. And I mean, it's just a season. It's so temporary, and I do think that it's worth it. So that's my point for just being so transparent. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. But yeah, so in the hospital, I started pumping 40 mils and giving them that. So then we would split it and they would get 20 mils after they nursed. And they did come out 5 pounds, like 5 pounds, 8 ounces around there. And then they lost weight, which is normal. But because I started producing milk in the hospital, they did gain weight. And so that was really, really nice. So anywho, we did have to start offering bottles in the hospital, but because they had such a great latch, I was so, so grateful for that. It didn't like, I don't know, with my daughters, it just introducing the pacifier, introducing the bottle didn't affect the success of also nursing. So I have heard that it does affect it. So proceed as you will. If you feel like you don't have to introduce a binky or you don't have to introduce a bottle, I will get to pumping. But if you feel like you don't have to, then I recommend not. When I got home from the hospital, like I said, I needed a lot of help to latch them because I was trying to do tandem at first. And then it became something that felt way like I just felt I had started seeing people talk about they felt that they wanted to nurse, because I was specifically talking about twin moms. They wanted to give that child undivided attention, so they would nurse one at a time, and so I started doing that. But like I said, you have to nurse from start to start, and when they are newborn, they take a long time, meaning they can take anywhere from 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, hour and a half sometimes, to finish nursing. And then you have to start again in 30 minutes if they took an hour and a half. And mind you, if you do one baby at a time, that's not really conducive to keeping up. And I personally, like I said, I'm not a professional at this, I'm not a doctor, but I will say personally, I do feel like maybe that is why twin moms specifically don't see success, is because they opt out of tandem. And I know it's difficult. I wouldn't say uncomfortable, but just like uncomfortable because it's something new and you've never done it before, possibly. So you've never done it before if it's uncomfortable. So anyway, it takes a lot of patience, and then you do need help, which again, it is that conversation to have with whoever is gonna be there supporting you through especially the beginning, which me and my husband and me and my mom had the conversation because I knew that she was gonna be staying with us, so we all talked about me being very serious about nursing, and we were all on the same page about whatever I decided, whatever I felt. I am so grateful that they leaned on my motherly instinct, which, as if you listened to my second episode, was a little shaky at first, but I'm just glad that they gave me confidence in trusting myself with nursing him and everything like that. Anywho, when I got home, I kept the nurse pump rotation. So literally, I would nurse them and then I would pump, and then I would nurse them and then I would pump. And this was right away. So again, I'm going to emphasize it was from start to start. So if they took a long time, I had to hurry up and pump right away, which was so annoying because like we were all trying to make sure that my stuff was clean and ready to go. go. And then I learned that you could just, for like the day, you could just put, hold on. So for the day, you could just put your pump stuff in like a Ziploc bag, put it in the fridge, and then just throw it in the dishwasher or throw it in your sterilizer, like during that 5-hour gap of when you're not nursing. So just be on that. But I will say I did not trust that 5-hour gap. So I was doing this round the clock sort of schedule for like the first month and a half. Also, my daughters were waking up more frequently compared to most newborns since they were preemie and trying to catch up for the time lost in the womb. I would say, like, for the first month, I was doing the pump or nurse, pump, nurse, pump, 20 all the time. I was just a zombie. And then I got some counseling and things like that. So I would get like checkup calls from the hospital and they were like, whoa, that's a lot. And I did start having a major stockpile in my fridge or my freezer. So I was nursing my girls successfully and also having a stockpile. And I really wanted that stockpile because then I heard that you have like this dip in supply. And I was just so scared. I was just so scared of not being able to succeed at this. So whatever backup I could supply myself, I was gonna do. So I did that for the first month, and then I scaled it back, and I only did it 3 times a day. I did it first thing in the morning, and I did it in the afternoon, and then I did it at night. And I did that until they were about, I don't know, maybe 4 months, and then I scaled it back again to twice a day. That's where I stayed until they were 6 months because I was getting a lot of clogged ducts and a lot of pain. I never had full-blown mastitis, but it felt like I did. I felt like I was gonna die at one point. They were about a month and a half, and I called my cousin or texted her and was like, "My boob is so hard. It hurts so bad." And I was crying. Okay, and let me just tell you, I am not a crybaby. I handle pain really, really well. So much so where they were like begging to give me, I wouldn't say begging, but they were super insistent on giving me really strong pain medicine after my C-section. And I was like, no, 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 I'll handle the ibuprofen and the Tylenol. And they were like super insistent, like you'll go home and you might be in a lot of pain. And I was like, I'll be fine. And of course, I never needed those strong drugs, but I was like so much so trying to just thug it out where I wouldn't even take my ibuprofen and then I would get like super cold and then all of a sudden the pain would just hit. And then I was like, okay, I'll take but you should mitigate the pain and not being like stuck in like fetal position and pain. You should definitely take your pills, especially post C-section. But my point is I handle pain very, very well. And so for me, like my husband didn't, he was like, do we need to go to the hospital? Because I was just crying and it hurt so bad and it was so hard and it hurt so bad. And then the advice sometimes like just pump it out. And I'm just gonna say this now. I hated pumping. And for the moms that have jobs and they have to pump, I commend you because it is hard. I did not like pumping. That was the worst part to me was the whole thing around pumping, having to get hooked up. And like for the longest time, I had I can't remember the name, Medela or something, the yellow one that I was not mobile and it was like a whole suction machine. And then I ended up getting the mobile ones and like it was just a lot. Keeping that stuff clean, keeping bags, keeping an ice pack, a lunch box for the milk, and it was just a lot. I started to like it was like intuition that started to tell me like, maybe it was just too much for my body. I'm already producing milk for 2, and then I'm pretty much producing milk for 3 or 4 with the amount of milk that I was storing in the freezer. I mean, my freezer was overflowing and so I kinda just told myself it was month 6, so it was, like, at the end of June, and I was like, "I'm done." I'm done pumping. And my husband was like, "Are you sure?" And we had this stockpile of milk. And I was like, "Well, milk is very, very fresh for 6 months, and then you can still use it for 12 months." And I was like, "Well, I've already made it to the 6 month mark. So this milk will definitely get us the rest of the way if necessary." It's kind of like where my mind was. And I stopped pumping at 6 months, and it was the best decision that I made for myself because my goodness, it was I mean, because I stopped getting clogged ducts and symptoms of mastitis and all of that, I genuinely believe it was from pumping because I stopped having those symptoms and stopped having clogged ducts after I stopped pumping. So if you are a mom of twins or multiples and you're nursing and you're pumping and you're getting clogged ducts from overstimulation and just your breast just doing too much, possibly consider scaling back on the pumping or not pumping it off. You could swing it if you are experiencing a lot of that. Again, consult your doctor, but these is just things that I'm sharing from my experience. I did just want to say thank you to my cousin for answering my calls when I was calling at 2 in the morning, freaking out and felt like I was dying again. Thank you so much for always being there when I was just going through that, Kia. Thank you, thank you, thank you if you're listening to this. And yeah, because my cousin's also a NICU nurse. And so a lot of things that she was helping me with, not to like go off on a tangent, but I was just so, so grateful to her. And that kind of brings me back to having a village and a support system. So if you don't have family members, like I have so many family members, thank God, that are like my stepmom used to be an OBGYN. Now she's a gynecologist. My mom is a ER, so she's a trauma nurse, RN. My cousin is a NICU nurse. My aunt is she's I don't know exactly. I just know that she's a nurse where she helps deliver babies. So I don't know like the acronym for that, but she's a nurse that helps deliver babies. And so I have a lot of people in my family that are very beneficial to reach out to that know a lot about these things that are in the medical field and everything like that. But if you aren't privileged to have that, then I definitely recommend having like a doula or a lactation consultant that you've been talking to. And again, preparation, in my opinion, is key. So getting these people in line while you're pregnant so that you're not trying to, scramble around when the baby is here or the babies, because that's the last thing that you want to really worry about is trying to find someone that you can trust. And, if you can talk to someone prior to, they can get to know you, they can get to know your lifestyle, they can recommend things. Maybe you're deficient in things, of course you get a lot of blood work when you're pregnant. So those type of people can really help with nutrition because nutrition is very, very important. The things that you put in your body are going to directly affect your child. High sugar can correlate to eczema, dry skin, rashes. There's just different things that if you don't have in your diet, it could affect their sleep, it could affect their development. I definitely would recommend talking to someone and building a team and doing as much research. If you're listening to this, then you're already on the right track. Doing as much research as you can, because that's what I did. And I prepared myself, like I said, for this undertaking. And I believe that it made me successful. So I'm trying to make sure that I stay up on my notes. So with the pumping, I believe that gave me the mastitis, and it also kind of helped to like free up my mind. I didn't have to worry about, of course, with two babies, cleaning all these bottles and sterilizing them all the time and worrying about that if we went out somewhere, having bottles, having milk. It just I just would nurse them in the car, and then we would go and do whatever we gotta do, and especially early on, we get back in the car and have to nurse them again, but I just made it work. I didn't, like, stress on it because it was already gonna be a stress, whether we had the bottles or whether I just had to, nurse them. And, we would go to family functions and things like that, and sometimes we'd be in the car for an hour and a half and basically miss the whole thing. It was a struggle missing things, and it kinda sucked, but like I said, again, it's just a small, short period of time, year or 2 at most typically, and then you're done and you move on. And it's kind of sad, which is why I'm still nursing them. I only nurse them to sleep right now. I don't know when I'll be done because it kind of messes with my brain. Like, are they gonna sleep through the night? I don't know. Anyway, I'll talk about that when I get there on part two. But yeah, you bond with your children when you nurse them, and it's so sweet, especially the early days. I definitely want to give some positive insight because it's so, so sweet. I would say that I was able to start, like, lifting them and putting them on myself when they were able to kinda lift up their head a little bit more. So, like, 3.5, 4 months was when I could start lifting them on my own and, like, putting them down and figuring out ways to be on my own, which is kinda perfect because that's when around the time my husband had to start going back to work. So that was really cool that that worked out and being able to do that, and just that bonding. I did understand when moms did say, like, they wanted to give their and when they have twins, they wanted to give them that undivided attention, but you've also gotta think about it. Yeah, tandem breastfeeding takes a little bit of figuring out, but once you get it, you get it. And if you think about it, breastfeeding is not just physical, but it's also mental. So you do need to be in a state of peace because these are my only children. It scares me to think about having more kids because I don't know if, I mean, clearly I won't get that peace ever again because I'll have two that are running around if I ever, I don't even want to say it. I don't want to have twins. I am grateful that I had twins as my first because doing them at the same time, it was very peaceful when I was trying to do that one at a time before I ended up going to my second appointment, my follow-up appointment with my lactation consultant, and she really gave me a lot of tips to tandem and showed me what to do and kind of empowered me. And then, of course, because we went to that appointment, I went with my mom and my husband who were there with me. They were able to see how they could help me. So that was really nice too, because it was like three people learning. So that was a really big support. So again, going back to getting that support. But anywho, when you when your babies are hungry, typically they're hungry at the same time. And you're not going to be relaxed. You're not going to be in a good state of mind if you have one baby screaming because they're hungry and then you're trying to nurse another baby. And if it's your first time and you're trying to, like, get them the latch, and sometimes you have to pop them off and then pop them back on because it was a bad latch. And then you're stressing that because you have this baby crying and you're like, I mean, even saying this out loud, I'm getting stressed out now. But it's stressful. It's a lot. But if you pop them both on, especially once you get the hang of it. Again, if you're going for a long stretch of time, like I did over a year, it behooves you to figure it out early on because then you have months of you got it. I wouldn't want to deal with a baby crying because that's, as a mom, you release stress hormones when your baby starts to cry, and then your other boob is starting to leak because your other baby is crying, and now you're losing milk, and now you're crying over spilled milk because all that milk is precious and you need your babies to eat it. Learning how to tandem is essential, in my opinion, if you have multiples. I only ever did the football hold, and I'll try to put some photos. I doubt I'm gonna be putting photos of myself on here, maybe if they're, like, ambiguous. Anyway, I did the football hold. That's all I did. The only time I tried to, like, shift them was when I got, like, clogged ducts, and I heard that if you position, like, their nose towards the clogged duct, then that helps with that specific area of flow, and that helps to unclog it. So I tried stuff like that. I think that the best thing that works for a clogged duct is to get a heating pad. I'll put up a picture, but typically those heating pads that you use for menstrual cramps or for your back pain that you use when you're menstruating. I use that and pressed it on my breast because you can control the heat and you don't need something that is extremely hot. One, your baby is there because you kind of want to use it while they're nursing. If you know you're about to start nursing and you have a clogged duct, if you get that heating pad and you apply it, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, it'll start to, like, think about it. Like, if you left butter out, it'll start to soften. Same thing with your breast milk. It's getting clogged up, but when you put that warmth there, it'll start to soften, and then when your baby goes to express it, it will it'll be easier, a much easier flow, and that really, really helped. I would not recommend icing it because if you think about it, it'll freeze it. The warmth really helped. The only time I iced it was like when I was going to sleep, and if it was really red and it hurt, I just iced it to get the inflammation down. And then, like I said, right before they would nurse, I would apply that heat pad. And sometimes I felt like you want that satisfaction of feeling like it's working, so you want that burn. I don't know who else is out there like that, but I did wanna feel that, like, burn, but it's not necessary. You do not wanna burn yourself. As long as it's warm, it's effective, and I loved that. That really, really helped. So, if you're experiencing that, I do recommend getting a heat pad or just preparing, in the things that nesting and stuff like that, if you're preparing for things, the heat pad is something that I would personally recommend. I don't think that there's a lot of things that you have to buy. The only thing that I would recommend, heat pad, of course, like if when you have a singleton, like the haka, the thing that catches your down what's it called? Your downpour. The terminology, I'm so bad at it now because I knew all the terms when I was fresh, but now I'm like, I don't remember the terms. But when you have a single baby and they're drinking off of one side because you only have one baby, the other breast will start to, oh, the let down. There we go. Will start to let down. So you want to get something to catch that so you can save that milk. I'd recommend that. What else? I didn't think about this, but I personally, I don't know if it's because I had twins, but I didn't really like have any leakage really. So maybe the disposable breast pads, one box should be fine. And then definitely some type of nipple balm I would recommend, but maybe I'll remember in part 2 to have a better list because I didn't think about that. The heating pad definitely comes to mind because that helped. That was a lifesaver. And I would get in the shower sometimes to express it. And of course, TMI, but your partner, your husband, they help because their suction is much stronger than a baby's. And like I said, TMI, but when you're in pain, girl, you know, y'all had a baby. So we know how those are made. And if you don't want to be in pain no more, ask for that help because sometimes it is really, really necessary. And you don't want to get an infection in your breast. I don't know what that feels like, but the pre experience is good enough for me to not even wanna ever think about getting an infection. Anyway, so I'm trying to think about okay, so yeah, I stopped pumping at 6 months, and because my daughters were preemie, I did wait a little bit longer to start introducing, like, whole foods. We waited until 7 months, and we just introduced, like, avocado. We did the again, my terminology, my goodness. But we did the big chunks and also the puree. So we did the dual method of feeding our daughters. And honestly, because we are really big on trying to steer away from sugar as long as we can so that our daughters can enjoy healthy whole foods for as long as possible. And it's honestly going really well for us. They eat pretty much all their vegetables. They love avocado. They do decent. One loves protein, and one is kind of like hit and miss with her protein. They love fruit. They do a really good job. A lot of people do tell us that they're surprised at how much that they eat and how well that they eat. Of course, because they're our first kids. I don't know. Don't mind my partum edges here, but how well that they eat. So because they're our first, I don't really know. I don't have nothing to compare it to, but of course other people have had their kids and stuff, so that's what they say. I don't know if that has anything to do with us avoiding sugar or because they're nursed. I don't know. But they do a good job. I mean, they eat a lot of their food. Yeah, around 7 months, that's what we started introducing foods. And yes, that's I mean, there's nothing really that happened between 7 and 9 months. We were still nursing 5 to 7 times a day, and it was tough, and nursing is tough, and I don't wanna keep saying that because it's so rewarding and it's so beautiful, and you feel so good to be able to provide for your children and not feel the need to use anything synthetic, and I'm going off of my experience, and if I would have had to supplement with formula for my daughters, if it's something that I had to do to make sure that they were healthy, fed is best, and that I mean, I don't want anyone to feel like I'm shaming them for that because by no means am I. But if you are able to nurse and you are able to be successful at it, and if I can help in any way share what worked for me to help you be successful, that's what I'm here to do. And I was about to say something that came to my mind, but I don't know what that was. But if you are able to be successful, I say go for it. What I was gonna say is something superficial, but I didn't think that your body, specifically your breasts, would change so drastically, so quickly. I thought it's something that happened when you're more mature in age, but my breasts are not at all perky or young looking or anything like that. And I wish someone would have told me that. So I definitely wanted to share to be in mind. None of my old bras fit. Honestly, I haven't even gone bra shopping for these postpartum, post breastfeeding new girls that I have. And so if anyone has any tips on, what is like a really good brand, please share that because as I do start to end my breastfeeding journey, I do need to go bra shopping, but I've still just been in my nursing tops. I just got the nursing tank tops that I love. Some people just get regular nursing bras or they have their own thing. I love the nursing tank tops because they double as a bra, and they also like, my stomach doesn't show when I'm nursing, and they can go under my shirts and stuff like that, so I do enjoy the tank tops. I have a few of the nursing bras. I typically only wear those if I'm, like, going out somewhere, like, somewhere nice or to, like, a event or something like that. I'll put on an actual, like, bra, but I always would wear a nursing one because I stopped pumping, my daughters went and still go everywhere that I go. I'll get into, like I said, what's going on now in part 2, but the first 9 months, for sure, they went everywhere I went. There was no babysitter in terms of especially when I stopped pumping. Now, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I do have that privilege to have my daughters go everywhere with me, but if you're a working mom, then of course I understand pumping and stuff like that. I'm just, like I said, sharing my story, but yeah, so for the first 9 months, for sure, they went everywhere I went, and so I always had to have some type of nursing conducive outfit on. That is also another tip that I wanna share. Have a lot of things that button up, that you have that's stretchable, easy access. I have not worn any high neck anything for the first 9 months, no crew neck tops or nothing like that, unless you just wanna, like, pull up your shirt, but then it, like, covers your baby's face and stuff like that, so I definitely recommend having things that button up, having things that zip down, having things that are low cut, so that you can easily access your uh, nursing contraption underneath or whatever. I do think that investing in some things, if you don't have them already, is very important because you don't want to not like just be in the house all the time naked or something. Like you have to go out places and do things, and you definitely want to have like this shirt that I have on is something that I had to pick up due to breastfeeding is because it buttons up, but it's nice and I can wear it. I was able to wear it like I wore this in my holiday photos and stuff like that. So being conscientious of still wanting to look nice because you do get down postpartum and you want to have some nice things that you can wear and also be able to nurse your kids is important. Definitely be mindful of that. This is pretty much what happened in my first 9 months. The first month, again, like I said, I started producing milk within the first 3 days. I was nursing, then pumping all the time, round the clock for the first month. And then for the first 3 months, I was pumping 3 times a day while I was still nursing round the clock every 2 to 3 hours. And then I ended up having a follow up. So I had my first lactation, like my actual appointment after taking the girls home, because when I was in the hospital, they came in and helped me right away. But my first appointment was 2 weeks postpartum. And that's when she helped me tandem. And I felt really empowered. And also, my husband and my mom went because they were staying with me. And we all learned together how to help me be successful with tandem. And then I had a follow up appointment at 5 months because it was in May. And she was just like, you don't have to pump anymore if you don't want to. But at that point, I was still scared. And then when I just kept getting those clogged ducts, and it would ruin my day, and it would take like a week almost to really clear up and the pain would go away. And I just decided at 6 months to stop pumping. And at 7 months, we started introducing some foods and purees and things like that. But that does not take away from the fact that you still have to nurse 5 to 7 times a day, especially at the 9 month mark. I will explain the other 10 months in my part two, but you can expect for your first 9 months that it's a lot, but it's worth it. And yeah, so definitely get mentally prepared for that. And again, if you have any questions, you can definitely contact me at Kaylee Berlinee. You can follow the podcast Facebook page at Mothering Holistically and the podcast Instagram at Mothering Holistically. Also, I really love to hear stories from other moms and just tips and things. There's moms of 7, 10 kids, moms of 1 kid, moms of 3 kids, moms of triplets, moms of quadruplets. There's so many stories, so many fun things that we can all learn from everyone who is a mom, and practical tips for the kitchen and practical tips for school and kindergarten and daycare. And there's so much that there is to share. So if you want to share your story and you want to talk with me, please connect with me again at Kaylee Berlinee. I would love to chat with you on here. And that is the purpose of this, just to share practical tips for the everyday mom. All of us are trying to figure it out every day as we go. And the more that we can help each other out is always going to be beneficial. So if you're willing to chat with me, please contact me. I'd love to hear from you. And if you are going to be nursing, please at me, Kaylee Berlinee, and then hashtag Mothering Holistically. Let me know if you're pregnant or if you're currently nursing. Definitely connect with us so that we can cheer you on. And yeah, I'm always there to answer any questions or to help out as much as I can, or to connect you with the right people that can help you. Anything I can do, that's just who I am. And I know that it's hard. And so if I can help, I will. So if you like this episode and you feel that it resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out just by clicking that like button. And if you feel it could help or encourage someone that is pregnant or nursing right now, feel free to share it and subscribe, while also hitting that notification bell to never miss a weekly episode. Until next time, remember to mother holistically and thrive authentically. I'm your host, Kaylee Berlinee, and together we're winning. Bye, y'all.